As the world's biggest Batman fan, I know many of you have been awaiting my opinion on the new Robert Pattinson movie. I've heard some of my friends say that the plot was good, but it didn't grip them in the same way The Dark Knight did. I'm not going to say that's unfair. I'm not even going to compare this movie to TDK as much as I did in my Joker video. I've just been so excited about this movie for so long, and it's finally here. So while this will be mostly analysis, there will be some reviews sprinkled in. I'm just here to explain why film critics and veteran Batman fans adore this movie. This is Kato, I am Zero, and today let's talk about the Batman. This video is brought to you by Juliet and Juliet. There's a lot to love about this new Batman. From the classic gadgets to the martial arts to the cool armor. At first I was skeptical of the new Batsuit. I've always been of the opinion that armored Batman works better for Justice League stuff, but in Gotham he should be darker, quicker, stealthier. And yet this Batman manages to make it work very well. In this film, the armor adds to the mystique of Batman as an unstoppable force of vengeance. This is a Batman who endures. I also love this opening sequence. They think I'm hiding in the shadows, but I am the shadows. Damn. That final line is so cold it gives me chills, but it's a very poetic way to observe the effect of Batman's mission. Batman has become an institution of Gotham City. And look at him! Why shouldn't he be institutionalized? People have begun to fear the Batman lurking in their imaginations, as well as in the shadows. This way, Batman can become what he is meant to be. A presence who deters meaningless crime from even happening in the first place. Then enter the Joker. This is an enigmatic murderer who taunts the Batman with personal callouts. Batman wonders what the Riddler stands to gain from dragging him into this. One thing is certain, this guy isn't afraid of Batman. Other criminals hope to escape his notice, but this latest prey expects it. Is this a challenge? Batman is someone who would rather give up his own life than watch someone die. If that person is someone important to him, then that's especially true. The fact that Batman's crusade made Alfred a target shakes his belief in what he's doing. And this is a Batman who is so emotionally confused that he doesn't even understand how much he values Alfred until Riddler almost blows him to hell. When Riddler targets the legacy of the Waynes, and even seems to target Alfred, Bruce can't help but feel that he is being toyed with by this killer. This character seemingly knows all of Gotham's secrets, and hates the Waynes. Bringing Batman into this case may have been his way to expose the greatest lie in all of Gotham. Perhaps this Riddler's goal is to force Batman to witness as he solves the real problems plaguing its people, including the Batman himself. As Bruce sits beside Alfred in his hospital bed, he can't help but believe that the torment he feels is all part of Riddler's plan to take everything from him. This is where Catwoman becomes relevant. Batman needs people to care about. Alfred, Lucius Fox, Leslie Thompson. These characters are essential to making Bruce's isolation dramatic. Of course, this idea also applies to his romantic life, which is often exemplified by Catwoman herself, which makes her inclusion feel really appropriate. This writing is just so economical. Each character accomplishes multiple things for the story, and the way it all connects is so satisfying. Similarly to how Riddler taunted Bruce Wayne, Catwoman has to answer for the sins of her father, Carmine Falcone, whose relationship with Thomas Wayne also undermines Bruce's faith in his family's legacy. There's honestly so much going on with Falcone, I might give him his own video. And there's simply not much you can point to in this film that's poorly executed. I personally wonder how Gordon was able to find all of the cops who were willing to stand against Falcone when he had already told Batman he didn't trust anyone. But this is the kind of quote-unquote plot hole that doesn't really matter, so let's get back to talking about Riddler. Batman thinks that Riddler, upon learning that Batman is Bruce Wayne, wishes to expose him and kill him, as he has done to all of his other victims. When he comes to this realization, he is shaken to his core, and believes that nothing can prevent his undoing at Riddler's hands, as the perpetrator is already behind bars. He's so defeated in these scenes, he can do nothing but stand there in a helpless stupor. The film has done such an excellent job of building up Riddler as this omniscient, fearsome intellect. And then Batman learns why Riddler really wanted an audience with him. He wanted someone to listen to him boast. He wanted a pat on the back from the famous Batman, validating him as an aspiring vigilante. In truth, he's so narcissistic and self-absorbed that he has the nerve to say that Bruce Wayne is not an orphan. The kid whose parents were shot dead in front of his eyes. No, that doesn't count. And this bias, this inability to assess Bruce Wayne accurately due to his preconceptions and hatred, prevents the Riddler from living up to his potential. It's also due to his delusional sense of connection and obsession with the Batman, which could be spoiled if he knew who Batman really was. So if the purpose of bringing the Batman into all of this wasn't to expose Batman's lies, then he just wanted recognition. This is made more evident by his talk of being remembered. Due to his gloating, Batman's perception of Riddler, and therefore our perception, goes from an intimidating genius serial murderer to a bratty child who thinks, wow, that Batman guy is cool. I hope he thinks I'm cool, too. And instead of Riddler getting the recognition he sought from someone he viewed as a peer, he receives ridicule. Because they had failed to understand each other, Riddler believes he overestimated Batman's intelligence. I cannot stress enough how perfect this is for a Riddler movie. Even as someone who knows that Riddler in the comics couldn't figure out who Batman was for a very long time due to these exact character flaws, this felt like a shocking twist on my first viewing. I'm not going to get too deep into it here, but historically Riddler is a character who is followed by ridicule his entire life, and subsequently yearns for recognition for what he considers his and humanity's greatest asset, intelligence. His life's goal is to prove himself to be superior to Batman, the world's greatest detective. But like many Batman villains, he eventually develops a need for Batman's attention. The reason Gotham is so crazy is that there are just 3 to 6 Avengers-level villains trying to get Batman's attention at all times. Joker argues that Batman needs them too. Batman actually does have fun solving the riddles and beating up Joker. The villains have the advantage because they don't care how many people die in the process. Like I said about Arthur Fleck in my Joker video, Edward Nashton is a character we can easily see evolving into a form even more reminiscent of his comic counterpart. But although there's room to grow, this Riddler is already one of the best and most accurate comic book characterizations in the history of superhero films. This Riddler thinks that because Batman inspired him, surely they must be kindred spirits. He doesn't know how right and how wrong he is. They do share many similarities, masking their faces and hiding in the shadows to deal out brutal vigilante justice. Even their origins share similarities in this story, with both of them being orphans who became concerned with their legacy. Batman doesn't even disagree with the Riddler's judgments of the corrupt cops and officials he exposes. It isn't until the moment that they finally come face to face that Batman starts to understand their deep-seated differences, and prior to this point in the movie, he starts to concede that Riddler might be on a moral high ground. It takes a while to get to this point due to the reaction Batman had to Riddler's first crime scene, and this suggests why they can't see eye to eye despite their many similarities and shared life experiences. Riddler fails to understand that Batman found his initial killing to be an unacceptable crime, because he didn't think about a young boy finding his father's corpse. Similarly, Riddler would not have expected Batman to stand beside someone he detests through their final moments. He thought Batman would have turned his back on this guy. In this scene, Batman reveals the greatest difference between them. Batman discovered that what he was lacking was within him all along. What the Batman was lacking as a symbol was hope. The Batman will stand beside you, hoping for your redemption until the very moment of your oblivion. The change Riddler hopes for is merely the eradication of the people and systems which have failed him. But the purpose of Batman's vengeance is to prevent what happened to him from happening again to someone else. He intrinsically hopes that he can change Gotham into a safer, better city for its citizens. Despite Riddler's talk of trying to join Batman's team, his plot undermines Bruce's goal of creating the secure world that they were both denied. And we learn that the people of Gotham who want to look to the Caped Crusader for inspiration are getting a muddled message. Batman realized he had been enacting vengeance on Gotham, and that he needed to change his ways. He realizes he's just been punishing people who deserve it, and maybe having too much fun doing it. That's right, this movie accurately depicts Batman having the most fun of his entire career. That's depressing. But through the truths about himself and Gotham that Eddie revealed, he realizes that to really change things, he has to inspire people around him to want the same. This is reinforced by the arcing relationship between Batman and Officer Martinez, who I truly hope we get to see again in the sequel. Officer Martinez is a bit of a judgmental and distrusting loudmouth, calling Batman a freak when his back is turned. He has the demeanor of a true Gothamite, but whatever you can say about him, he's not a dirty cop. He just feels a little weird about Batman sort of imposing himself all of a sudden. But when he gets more used to Batman and can begin to tell that he's actually a good guy underneath it all, he makes more of an effort to be understanding and accommodating. After all, they both want the same thing, even if Batman is a little strange. It suggests that a lot of cops probably underwent this arc, and probably a lot of Gotham citizens too. People are suspicious of creepy-looking but admittedly handsome men in masks. And that's why I love the ending sequence so much. The people need to see him saving them before they can trust him. The sheer imagery of Batman with a flare, wading through the murky water flooding the streets of Gotham. By the beginning of the movie, Batman had mastered the shadows. By its end, he learns when to become a beacon of light. This movie met all of my expectations and exceeded them. Pattinson's performance was as perfect as predicted. This Batman is so interesting. I love the vampiric aesthetic, and I love that he was willing to throw hands with an entire room of GCPD cops. Paul Dano's Riddler is going up there with Nicholson's and Ledger's Jokers. It's fitting that legacy was such a prevalent theme in this film, because this film truly respects the legacy of Batman.